There's a drive way back. It might be. It could be. It is. Holy cow. Welcome to another broadcast of Bricks Behind the Ivy. Here's your host, Jeff and Sean.
Hey, Cub fans! Welcome to another episode of Bricks Behind the Ivy. I am your host, Jeff Candid Cubs Rogowskis. With me is co-host extraordinaire, Mr. Sean Hot Stove Cubbies Chapin. Sean, how are you doing today?
I am doing great. I want to start off the show by saying apparently you can have a red glove, a gold glove, a blue glove, multicolor, but you can't have an American flag on the glove. That's where the umps draw the line.
Interesting. I did not know that. You know, I think one thing that I am very interested in is that Cody Bellinger found out that we're not the only bricks behind the Ivy. The Wrigley Field wall also has bricks behind the Ivy, and it's fun to make light of it, but losing Cody Bellinger for an unknown amount of time is just not ideal. Not to a team that's already just filled with injuries and a lot of guys on the injured list.
Yeah, I'm a little worried about that. Obviously, PCA hitting a home run today for his first major league hit was awesome. But I mean, 2 cracked ribs, and I've never had cracked ribs, but take this with a grain of salt. A couple of folks in my timeline on Twitter suggested that it's at least a 6-week recovery, and that's tough for, obviously athletes are different, but I think we're probably looking at 6 weeks without Cody Bellinger.
Yeah, sorry, I was listening to you mostly, but if you were watching on the video, you probably noticed I was stretching because that AAA depth is getting tested, and I have a feeling that Craig Counsell is going to call me naturally to be a part of either the rotation or play center field. If he's really into under 60-mile-per-hour fastballs and stamina of about 2 pitches, then I would be the perfect player for this team. But yeah, I think, I've been teasing it most of the week, and my different social medias on Instagram and on TikTok mainly, and some on Twitter. And we have a big announcement today.
A big one.
Yes, with lots of hustle and lots of discussion. We have an affiliation. We have a sponsor. Yes. Round of applause. Wrigleyville Sports, one of my favorite sports stores down in Wrigleyville, right by the ballpark. I feel like every time I go to a Cubs game, I usually take the red line and I walk by that store on the way out of the game. And I always go in and I'm like, I just want to look. And then I walk out with something like this hat. The last Cub game I went to, I actually went in there just because I was waiting for my Uber. I was like, I'll just take a look. And I was like, I need that hat. And I bought the hat and walked out. So added to my collection of 43 different Cub hats. Yes, that's true. Maybe someday we can go through all of it. But we have a sponsor. We're so excited to be working with Wrigleyville Sports. And here's the dealio, guys. We're going to have a link in our socials that you can go to make purchases on Wrigleyville Sports. And we have a special discount code for you guys to use to get 10% off of your order. And that code is BRICKS10. Yes, our first discount code, our first affiliation with Wrigleyville Sports. Thank you to all the people over there. They'll be sharing this information on the socials. Once again, we'll have some more information as this progresses, but you'll have to go to the link in our socials to get the Wrigleyville Sports and then use the coupon code for the coupon code The Work. And this helps you support Bricks Behind the Ivy, and also you get 10% off some pretty awesome Cub stuff.
And that is significant. I don't know about you, but anytime I go to buy one shirt, it turns into 10 or a hat. And I got a very large family, and let me tell you, they all need new Cub shirts.
Yeah, I know tomorrow, which when you're listening to this today, I'll be on the Wrigleyville Sports website ordering stuff for my family as a thank you for them supporting our podcast. And because it's been a minute since I've bought some Cub stuff, so I want some more. I'm itching. So,
Absolutely.
That being said, it's time. Thank you, Wrigleyville Sports, and we'll mention you guys in each podcast. Thank you so much for partnering with us and helping Cub fans get Cub stuff at great prices, and also being the best Cubs memorabilia store in Wrigleyville. So can't wait to get down to a Cubs game and say hi to my friends down at Wrigleyville Sports this year, which I should be going at some point in May. But we are going to do, Sean, and some of our listeners' favorite things, the Box Score Blitz. Go through...
Box Score Blitz? Box Score Blitz every time. Can't help it.
It's so funny because I had a family occasion this weekend, and I had a relative say that they feel, since we filmed this in my basement, and I'm thinking it's probably your basement, and then we did that.
Yeah.
They're like the whole homage to the Wayne's World. They just felt like it just was all
So
encompassing.
appropriate.
Yeah, I know. Maybe for a Halloween episode, we can dress like Wayne and Garth.
I love that.
But here is the Box Score Blitz, putting time on the not clock. Ready, set, go. Game 1, rain, go away. We play 2 on Saturday. Game 2, which is technically game 1 of the week because we didn't play that game on Thursday. But we got a shot of Jameson. It was Jameson Tyon's debut, and he was back from his injury that started the spring. Cubs jump early. It was 7-0 by the 3rd inning. What the puck? Not a swear, we don't have to censor it. AJ Puck had 3 walks and 7 earned runs. He was a much better closer. He's actually been removed from the rotation since. Tyon was testy. TT, yes, alliteration. I love alliteration. 5 innings pitched, 4 Ks, only 1 earned run, 12 whiffs. What a debut for Tyon as he tries to right the ship from last year. Hey, fun performance alert. Keegan Thompson, another 2 innings pitched, 4 Ks, 8 whiffs in the 2 innings. He's looked really good since we come up. Cubs win 8-3. Game 3, technically game 2, doubleheader. Let's play 2. Hey, here's a fun fact. The Cubs have only swept 18.5% of all their doubleheaders in 471 tries. So sweeping a doubleheader is very, very difficult. I know there's some people frustrated with the results of this series. But anywho, Assad, he's in the first game, and he's playing our favorite trade piece to talk about, Jesus Luzardo. And Luzardo was pretty solid. He had 6 Ks through 6 innings, looked really good, has that velocity. Cubs should get, yes please. We had some daily wisdom, Patrick Wisdom back on the roster. He hits a triple, and he gets 2 runs in that RBI triple. Bullpen comes in and tries to hold this lead, but Adbert Alzolay comes in, gives up to a home run to thorn in our side in this series. De La Cruz for his 4th blown save. Cubs lose heartbreaker 3-2. But wait, there's more. There's a second game for this day. It's a doubleheader. Cubs have to totally redeem themselves. And guess what? It's time to Shota Me the Money. Our high-priced pitcher pitched in the game 2, 6 innings pitched, 2 earned runs, 5 Ks. He's got a .84 ERA on the year. And the wind at Wrigley was powered by his 17 whiffs. My lord, that is so good. Only 4 Ks, but people are swinging and missing. Billy Bomb, it was 1-0 Cubs early. Cubs go down 3-1 by the 6th inning. Hope is lost. I'm feeling sad. But then, a ray of sunshine. Canario hits his home run. And then my heart explodes as Michael My Bay Bush hits a 2-run go-ahead RBI single. Cubs win 5-3. Hector Neris officially starts as the closer, gets his first save. Series finale versus the Marlins. Kyle Hendricks is on the mound. How did he do? Not great. Please leave me alone. This is a dark time for me. We're all trying to recover.
So sad.
Sanchez hits a home run that would have left Yellowstone Park absolutely smoked. Cubs get dominated by Edward Cabrera. They split the series. Some people are upset about that. And with the doubleheader, I feel like it's a toss-up. 2-2. You still didn't lose the series. Hey, guess what we did on Monday? We had an off day, which the Cubs really, really needed it. They had a lot of injuries. And there was a lot of roster moves. Hendricks was moved to the IL for his back injury, allegedly. Smiley was moved to the IL. Luke Little is back. Kaden Wesneski is back. And guess what? The next game this week, the Trastros are in town. Sorry, Astros. Nope, I was correct the first time.
Bang, 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 bang.
Guess what? Hap Daddy is back. Please, Boog Shambi, tell me why you call him Hap Daddy. No one calls this man Hap Daddy. Yeah, it's only MLB The Show. It's the weirdest thing in the world. I would like to get him on this podcast and clear the air on why the words Hap Daddy's in MLB The Show and no one else calls him that. It's Happer. Okay,
it's a little weird.
Cubs score 5 runs in the first. They're the first inning Cubs this year. They've outscored opponents significantly in the first inning. And let's give me something to talk about. Talk about bombs. 2 home runs for Mike Tauchman in this game. 3 home runs total. Nobody holds a candle to our wicks. and another quality start. 11 whiffs, 4 Ks. Who is this man? He's a completely different pitcher. Billy hits the wall in center field, is removed from the game. You can see on the tape the moment where my heart breaks. Cubs win 7-2. Questions about Bellinger. Guess what? 2 fractured ribs. Don't know when he's coming back. Time to be super sad. No Belly, so what's the point of watching the game? Just kidding, there's still games, and guess what? PTA gets to come up, which is not how we expected him to come up, but he's gotten to come up. Stand and salute Lieutenant Dansby. It's a 3-run tater. There's 4 runs in the first again. Offense goes to sleep for the rest of the game, so now I can't go to sleep as the game was on in the evening. Tylone gets the start in this game, goes 5.2. He didn't look overly sharp. He got hit pretty hard, not many swings and misses, but he still had 4 Ks. He still pitched 5.2 innings, still looking solid returning from injury. Game gets really close. Nair shuts the door even after giving a home run to El Jose Altuve. Cubs win 4-3. And guess what? We're all the way up to a few hours ago in which the Cub game just ended. Javier Assad, the ass man, first the oldest man in baseball, Justin Verlander. Verlander looked very sharp early. Cubs get bases loaded early in the game. And up doing nothing, get a bunch of men on, do nothing most of the game. I'm sad, thinking that they're going to only take 2 or 3. This is a getaway day, as the Cubs are going to Boston starting tomorrow. Late in the game, PCA gets to be up first Montero, and guess what? He gets his first major league hit, and it's a big one. It's a home run, absolutely smoked, 396 feet, 107 miles per hour off the bat. He gets hugged by Dansby twice. I want to get hugged by Dansby twice. Cubs win this game 3-1. They sweep the Trastros, and that is the box score Blitz.
I loved how PCA pimped that home run too, by the way. I just absolutely loved it.
First
The
hit in the
swagger
major
on that
leagues.
guy.
I mean, come on. Like that is so
Yeah.
cool. And like he had obviously a tough start last year. Didn't get a hit last year in the games he played. He's filling in. Like this has just been like a next man up situation, which we'll get to in a minute. Sean, what are the hot stove standings update?
Before I go there, I just want to call out your beautiful singing voice. You have like the voice of an angel and Fergie.
That's what I do. It's funny because I actually failed sight singing in college because my teacher did not think I could sing, which she was correct. I have a hard time finding pitch unless I'm being silly. So there we go. Something you learned about me.
There we go. All right, the standings before we get to the NL Central, just want to call out some craziness that's going on in the American League. First of all, that AL East with the Yankees and the Orioles, at the very top, battling it out there. That's a lot of fun. But the Cleveland Guardians have the best record in the American League.
Yeah, I heard that today on the broadcast,
the
and it blew my
Cleveland
mind.
Guardians, just 8-2 in their last 10, just crazy to me.
Good for them, man. And the offense has been the key there, which usually, like, when you think of Guardians teams, it's always pitching. Yeah,
always.
And bullpen. And, yeah, they're hitting well. And the best kept secret in America, Jose Ramirez, just an absolute stud
Monster.
into that lineup. Yeah, Steve Kwan, he gets on base a lot, but this is not a Guardians pod. This is a Cubs pod. Sorry, continue.
Yeah. So we'll go to the National League Central. So right now, the team from Wrigley North is in first. You got our beloved Chicago Cubs in second. The Fighting Petes are in third. Sean Rodriguez's old team is in fourth. They've been scuffling, just like Sean Rodriguez did. And they're 3-7 in their last 10. And then you have the best fans in baseball, ?
Yikes.
They're bringing up the rear. My gosh, did you see how empty that stadium was?
I did. It's I saw one of our friends at Northside Baseball, Jacob Zanola. He had put something. He was at a game there, and he's like, "Oh, it's everybody."
Shout out to
like
Jacob.
Everybody dressed like a red chair day at Busch Stadium. But
I didn't even see that. That's great.
I generally feel like baseball has like a weird karma dynamic, so I don't want to jump on them while they're down. But man, this is just such. Yeah, I know.
You need to jump on them.
This is such a weird moment in Cardinals baseball, considering my entire life has been just the story of their success. And yeah, I mean, shout out to one of our friends of the pods, Cardinals_live. I know he's probably going through it right now, and I do feel for him. He was a great guest, and
he's a cool dude.
Yeah. But obviously there's some that kind of ruin it for the bunch, just like some people feel that way about Cub fans. And
Yep.
yeah, just yeah, St. Louis is a mess, a mess.
Yeah, but that's the standings. The Cubs are still a half a game out from the Brewers that just continue to win. But hopefully, there's a series coming up, and that's going to be a big one. But before we head to the upcoming series, Jeff, I think you have a great topic for today.
Yeah, today I wanted to talk about, with all the injuries that have been going on with the Cubs and the injured list just getting longer and longer, it's starting to look more like the 40 man.
Hmm.
This team has continued to persevere, and I just kind of want to point out the positive in what seems like a very frustrating moment for our Cubbies. No one wants to see injuries, especially when, the expectations for this team is, to win this division and to be competitive, and those things get
Hmm.
more difficult as key players go down. So, I mean, the current injured list is actually kind of nuts, and one of these guys obviously just got reactivated. You look at Seiya Suzuki, Drew Smiley, Kyle Hendricks, Cody Bellinger, Justin Steele, and Ian Happ was, banged up a little bit, and he
Yeah.
was DH again today. And if you look at these guys, like in their 2023 performance, they were just so pivotal to this team. Looking at wins above replacement, say Suzuki last year, obviously a huge second half. He was a 3 WAR player. Kyle Hendricks, as much as people are frustrated with what he's done this year, he was a 2.8 WAR player. Bellinger 4.3, Steele 4.9, Hap 3.2. So like that injured list, you can remove Hap from it, but like including Hap right now, that's 19.1 WAR that was on this team last year. Say was off to a really hot start too.
Yeah.
And like obviously there can be some debate on like what Kyle Hendricks has been this year and what value he's brought. Like that's not what we're discussing. We're talking about this is a majority of players that have been, just have to be replaced by the depth of this team. And, you know, credit to, them telling us we had depth in the offseason. And, I think we discussed at different points with Michael Cerami. We've discussed on this podcast, the free agents that were available and thinking about like what it would be like to have some of those pitchers now. I mean, credit
Yeah.
to Jed Hoyer sticking with the guys. Like Javier Assad has been a revelation in
Oh
this
my
rotation.
gosh, the ass man.
Yeah, exactly. Like he has been so good, and it's not just like he's not necessarily a whiffs guy. He still gets strikeouts, but his he's very hard to barrel. Jim
Hmm.
Shays was talking about today that in modern baseball, like the two seamer has kind of gone away, at least in terminology, and everybody calls it a sinker. But he said that Assad kind of has more of a traditional two seamer, which runs so much that people are having a hard time scoring it up. So that's been kind of cool to see him succeed, and it's just really hard. Excuse me, it's really hard to think about removing him from this rotation once different guys get healthy, just because he's been so successful there. But he also is a really good weapon for the pen, as we've seen in the past.
Hmm.
So, but like that's the type of flexibility that Craig Counsell has been so good at managing in the past. And just kind of riding the wave of what Assad is now is good enough for now. And if you told me, and I saw somebody tweet this the other day, and I should have looked it up so I could credit them. I like to give people credit and not take credit from other folks. But if you told me that we'd be sitting here with this injured list, and, obviously some of them have been gone longer than others, and we'd be
Hmm.
16-9 and a half game out of
Yeah.
first, playing the opponents that we've played, I would take that 115 times out of 10. It's just it's been such a next man up mentality with Canario, with PCA today getting his first major league hit, and just how Craig Counsell seems to have a really good idea of like setting the expectation for these guys and like putting them in the game and telling them what he needs from them and not expecting anything more than that. I don't know if it's giving them comfortability. Like we saw it so much, I feel like in Milwaukee, but it just every guy that's come in here has pretty much succeeded. And some of these guys are going to go back to the minors and, just have to like earn their way back up as some of these stars come back up, which is not a problem. It's awesome. Like this is
Hmm.
that
It is.
feeling I feel like Dodgers fans have when someone gets hurt, they've got this stud and like just
Just
sitting in the
waiting.
wings.
Yep.
Exactly. So it's one thing I do want to put out kind of point out in the Cubs have been pretty successful winning games, and a lot of it has to do, I think, with their patience. They're still top five in baseball this year in walk rate, which is at 10.2%. One thing that's actually really interesting to me in the top five, the Cubs are five. They're tied currently in walk rate with Cincinnati, and then Pittsburgh is ahead of both of them at 10.6. It's
Mm,
really interesting that there's three NL teams right there that are extremely patient. So that'll be something to monitor. And I thought that walk rate actually, on the Cincinnati side, given the number of young hitters, is a pretty big development. It's obviously
yeah.
early in the year, and I'll have to look at their quality schedule. But that's that Cincinnati team. I think we talked, with Andy, and I think that was the team we kind of were like they could be very good, and with
Yes,
their and
absolutely. Same with
so
Pirates. I mean,
yes.
same with the Pirates. And I know they've been scuffling lately, but they're a young team that's also, you know, walking at a good rate and stuff. So I think you got some really good points there. The NL Central is just a lot better than we anticipated at this point.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think it's not like these guys have been, beating on teams that weren't supposed to be good. Like they've had good starts, and
Hmm.
the the Pirates like scuffle this week. They played the Brewers in what is clearly becoming very important head-to-head matchups in this division. So it's
Yeah.
not necessarily, them scuffling as much as we're going to start to kind of figure out what the pack is here in the NL Central. So, yeah, I think the Cubs having this high walk rate, plate discipline, they've hit a lot of home runs. They're still in the top five for home runs, which is, surprising. Some of these guys have gone cold, but like Christopher Morel has been in a long slump. He was 3 for 40 the last I checked, and obviously Nico Horner has heated up
Yeah.
considerably. He's looked great. But, at the end of the day, like they still keep getting it done. They're winning close games. And, I'm going to give some credit to Jed Hoyer and roster construction. And I'm going to give credit to Craig Counsell of like plugging these guys in and setting expectations and putting them in situations for them to succeed. Sean, what's catching your eye this week?
Um, One thing I wanted to bring up that you kind of touched on is, it is the next man in. And can you imagine a situation where we would have, if like I say we as in I'm part of the Cubs, but the Cubs would have traded Canario for a relief pitcher, yeah, to help the pen, but you don't have that depth there. So I'm totally with you. I think this roster construction was good, and they held on to the guys that were knocking on the door to the big leagues just for situations like this. So I think that's a fantastic point.
Yeah, I think, and there's kind of the advantage of like the showcase. These guys are
Yeah,
getting
I do like that.
yeah,
Yeah.
major league at bats, and they're going to potentially either be a part of this team because they stick,
Yep.
or they're going to show something that is going to be able to help this team in the stretch run in a trade.
Yeah. Speaking of prospects and knocking on the door, what I wanted to focus on today is looking at three players that have really caught my eye from the start of the season down in the minor leagues. Matt Shaw has continued just to hit the crap out of the ball, and I don't think he's getting enough play at this point, which is kind of ridiculous to say, but like I'm not seeing him come up on my timeline on X, but I mean he's got a 929 OPS in 15 games so far.
Oh wow,
His K rate's only 22.2, but his base on ball rate 19%.
that's good.
I Yeah, you want to know how good that is? That's a 181 WRC plus.
Jeez,
He's to me, he's going to be the guy that's going to get a call up probably May. I think he might force his hand and get a call up in May. It's going to be May.
it's gonna
um,
be May.
I wanted you to do it. That's why I set the ball up there and you hit it out of the park.
Yeah,
Thank
you,
you
you
for
know how much I love Justin Timberlake, so
I
that
know.
was that was such an easy.
This whole podcast loves Justin Timberlake. In fact, my wife loves Justin Timberlake. He is like, that's the one concert that her and I would probably mortgage our future to go to. So just putting that out there.
I'm
Justin, if
go-
you listen to the podcast, give me some tickets.
I'm going in July.
Oh my gosh.
I got
You're going to
them
have to
in.
smuggle us in.
Dude, check it out. Sorry, like complete tangent, but Cleveland. Um, they have like different rules about resale, and the prices were the most affordable on as a tour.
Oh wow,
Yeah,
wow.
it's not a terrible drive.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
I'm gonna check into
Anywho,
that.
yeah, back to
Anywho,
Cubs.
yeah. So the second player, and he's getting a lot of love right now, Jefferson Rojas. I think by mid-year, he's going to be a top 50 prospect in baseball by a lot of publications. I really believe that. I think he's getting a lot of love right now, and even I think Baseball America retweeted out that they're considering doing a mid-year re-ranking ahead of this, and Jefferson Rojas is the guy that they're going to really look at. 17.1% K rate to 7.1 based on ball rate. He's hitting 328, and he's 19 years old at high A. I think he's probably going to make the jump up to double A probably by July if he continues on this path. Obviously, he's not. I'd be surprised if he can keep that 328 average and his walk rate so low. But I mean, this is for a 19-year-old kid.
Yeah.
I mean, heir apparent to Swanson eventually, possibly, but man, he is a guy that is fun to watch. Seeing clips of him and stuff.
Yeah, he's over at South Bend, right? Which is
Yes.
a hop and a skip away for folks. So while he's there, I highly recommend. Still rated one of the best minor league experiences in baseball, and it's not that far from Chicago. I have family there. Shout out to family in South Bend. And yeah, it's a really good time, and you can see the future of the Cubs there. See some Jefferson Rojas.
And speaking of South Bend, Drew Gray putting up some silly numbers at South Bend, and I don't think he gets a lot of run either. A 2.25 ERA in 3 starts. He has a lot of walks, a ton of walks. I mean, 11 total in 3 starts. I think he's got like 8 or 9 innings pitched. So that's a lot of walks, but his strikeout percentage, just under 36%.
Oh, man.
Woo, baby. I know a small sample size, but when you're pitching 3 to 4 innings starting games and you have that nearly 36% strikeout rate, you're doing something great. And I watched a couple of video clips on him today. And one of the things that I'm noticing is he's not getting these batters out with breaking pitches. It is his fastball, and his fastball spin rate is incredibly high. A lot of scouts really like that. And it has a lot of late carry, which is just absolutely destroying hitters right now in South Bend. I mean, I wish I would have looked up the whiff percentage on his fastball, but it's gotta be just as high as a strikeout percentage at least.
Oh, wow.
But he's been impressive. He's a guy that I'm going to continue to watch along with these other two. Obviously, there's a lot of other players that are playing really well. Owen Casey, looking good. But Matt Shaw and Jefferson Rojas and Drew Gray, they caught my eye so far this early in the season.
Yeah, it's always good to have an idea of kind of what's next as, things are going well in the Major League Club. Feels like such a renaissance for this organization as, they take a step forward to trying to have consistent competitors. And speaking of what's next, it's time to talk about our series preview and what's next for the Cubs. And immediately following today, as the Cubs sweep the Astros, they head off to Fenway Park and they're going to play the Red Sox. And we're going to see a pitching staff that's actually in the top 2 in ERA this year, which I don't think if you asked me at the beginning of the year based on some of the moves they made, that would be a conclusion I would come to as Red Sox super dominant pitching. But unfortunately, they have a young pitcher that they just signed to a team-friendly extension, Brian Bello, who's got an arm injury. Add him to the list of the epidemic of arm injuries in Major League Baseball. Just unfortunate. Would have been cool to see that guy. But Cubs start the series tomorrow in Boston, and they have Imanaga.
Boston Yard.
Yeah, they have Imanaga facing Cutter Crawford, which is one of my favorite pitchers because he now throws a cutter, and his name is Cutter. So, like, if he didn't throw
that's
a cutter,
awesome.
What's the point?
Yeah, that's my point.
So we'll see how the Cubs do there. On Saturday, they're facing a guy named Winkowski, and he is another one of this like just plethora of 25-year-old starting pitchers the Red Sox seem to be rolling out there. And yeah, he has, just a pretty standard repertoire, hasn't pitched a ton, about a 4 ERA, not something that, I had a ton of information on and any predictions. Cubs have this listed as to be determined on the starter. This
Yeah,
would have
it's
been
weird. I saw that too.
it would have been Hendrick's start. I'm guessing based on he hasn't pitched since his little one inning the other night, which could have been like a side session day. I'm guessing we're probably going with Brown on that game, and we'll see what Brown can do for you. And then
Yeah.
Sunday, the first Sunday night baseball game for the Cubs at Fenway, which is cool. I generally like those broadcasts from time to time, and there's obviously a lot of bells and whistles as they try to like highlight different things and tell people what's going on with the team, and maybe the game is kind of secondary at times, but still kind of cool to get that ESPN feeling. The Cubs have Jordan Wicks
Yeah.
versus Tanner Huck, which he has a very good hook. He's got a good hook. He's got a good slider. So that'll be interesting to see how the Cubs do with him. He's been very solid early on. Yeah, the Red Sox are 14-12 early. Obviously they play in that just absolutely like obnoxious AL East. Lots of good teams there. Yankees have looked pretty good. They've had some good pitching, and that offense, with Juan Soto and Aaron Judge, is always terrifying. Old friend Anthony Rizzo as well is over there, and once he heats up, like that could be such a huge part of that lineup. Yeah, but they're like I said, they're currently top in the league, near the top in pitching. So it'll be interesting seeing what the Cubs do. They obviously have a solid walk rate, but I feel like in the last few games, I've been taking a look at pitches per at bats, and Cubs had a lot of strikeouts the other night, and
Yeah.
they still pulled out the win. And they've been striking out a decent amount. Obviously, there's one that's actually I've noticed striking out a little bit more of late is Ian Happ. So yeah, good pitching staff. It's got some strikeout stuff. It'll be very interesting to see how the Cubs do versus that good Red Sox staff. So after that, who do we got, Mr. Sean?
Ron Santos said that this is the worst place on earth. I believe that he said that verbatim, going to the Mets. So we have Luis Severino against Jamison Talion, Shamanaya against Javier Assad, and Jose Buto. I want to say Butto so bad against Shota Imanaga. This is a great starting pitching matchup series. I was surprised to look when I was looking at the Mets in general, who are 2 games above 500, which is kind of shocking to me. Severino has a 2.67 ERA. Shamanaya has a 3.33, and Buto has a 1.65 ERA. So they're facing some guys that have actually done really good at the early onset of 2024. Again, I think it's good. It's just a tough series against the Red Sox, and then going to the Mets as well. That East Coast series. I think that this is going to be a very important away series for the Cubs. I mean, when you're facing that kind of pitching, you got to be on your A game. And obviously, we talked about the bumps that they've had and the players on the IL. I think this is a great opportunity to see how this team performs outside of Wrigley and not on the West Coast. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I think, obviously that closes out April, that series, and,
Mm-hmm.
gets us to our next episode, and it's going to be May. And, I think that that's been very much documented that this is kind of a tough stretch for the Cubs.
Yeah.
And, the injuries as have piled up, and you look at May being an extremely tough month, and the second half of the year lightens up significantly for the Cubs, which is good news.
Yeah.
And yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they survive this stretch, and not to look too far ahead, but kind of what people are mentioning. The Cubs do like a stretch where they play, from the 10th to the 23rd of May, only Pittsburgh and Atlanta, which, obviously Pittsburgh has been very good.
Yep.
And Atlanta is Atlanta. So that's going to be tough. Hopefully, we're going to see Justin Steele come back in there in early May.
Yeah.
But like even before that, the Cubs have the Padres again at home and the Brewers as well. And, they close the month with the Brewers again. And then we finally see the Reds going into June. So it's just a very tough stretch, and the Cubs are very banged up. And kind of like back to our point, the next man up philosophy, we're going to see
Absolutely.
what this grit of this team is, and, if they can kind of steal or stay around above 500 in this stretch, I think that is going to be as terrible as this is, like a moral victory of just being
Yeah,
able to.
I'm with you. I was just about to ask you that question. I mean, 500 in this stretch, I think, is a win.
Yeah, and yeah, Cubs are have the best record or tied for the best record at home with Atlanta now. I believe now that they won today, it's 10-3. So we've got some home games in there. Cubs have been taking care of business at home and taking series on the road. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I do love the new schedule because we get to see everybody, and yeah, I do enjoy watching games played at Fenway, the oldest ballpark in America. Happy belated 110th birthday to Wrigley Field, by the way. Absolutely love that place.
The federal landmark.
You do not look a day over 100. So happy birthday to the federal landmark.
Yeah.
So, Sean, before we let the nice people go, any final thoughts about our Cubbies?
I'm impressed so far. There's the Craig Counsell effect. I think that's in full effect with all the injuries and stuff. And he just seems to be playing his cards right, and that's why he was hired. So I am a full believer in the Craig Counsell effect, and hope that we continue on this wonderful I can't even say it. Path. We're going to edit that out. You better edit that out.
I will not.
Trajectory. There it is. Trajectory.
There we go. You did it. 5th time's the charm.
Hooray!
But yeah, I think, I agree with you. I feel like, everything feels like it's coming up Millhouse. Obviously, there's a lot of things that can rain on the parade with injuries, and that has been very frustrating. There is a weird irony of a wall-based injury versus the Astros for Bellinger, just like last year. Last year was the knee. This year was the wall at Wrigley and the rib. So, yeah, I don't want to see the Astros. And then maybe when the Astros are playing the Cubs, and if we still have Bellinger, like, he shouldn't be allowed to play. Just like put him in like one of those plastic bubbles and keep him safe.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's I think the results are encouraging. I think we're coming to the end of April with a guaranteed, even if they lose every game, knock on wood, above 500 mark as we head into May, and that's kind of where we want to be at this moment. And yeah, some tests ahead, and the first look at the Brewers and such coming. But yeah, this week, take care of business on the road versus the Red Sox and the Mets. But yeah, this has been another episode of Bricks Behind the Ivy. If you are looking for us, you can find us on all social media channels. You can find our TikTok, which is BBTI_pod. You can find our Twitter, which is brand new. Follow our Twitter. Once we get to 1,000 followers, we will be giving away Cubs jerseys and Cubs tickets. So help us get to that number. Help me get to 1,000. I'm at 799 followers right now. You can find me at Candid Cubs, and you can find us on Instagram at bricks_behind_the_Ivy. And make sure you use that coupon code and talk to our friends over at Wrigleyville Sports. Once again, thank you for supporting our podcast, and we are going to support you by coming onto this podcast next week with our brand new bling and all our Cubs stuff. Sean, any final thoughts about where people can find you on social, and any article plugs you want to put in?
Sure. So my Unlocking baseball series is winding down. I only have a few more articles that I have set to write, but bring in the robo-umps. Bring in the electronic strike zone. It needs to happen. This year has been incredibly bad for that. So go to Northside Baseball, check out the Unlocking baseball series, along with everybody else's wonderful writing out there. Great team there. You can find me at Hot of Cubbies on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. So, go over there, look at my beautiful face, hit follow, do that kind of thing. My parting thought is we still can't put American flags on gloves.
I mean,
whatever.
He wasn't allowed to wear his Venezuelan flag colors either. It's such a weird
just ridiculous.
Hey,
weird.
It'll be really interesting. Players Weekend is back. one.
Yeah,
last
there we
thing.
go. Let's do that.
Honestly, like, let's get Richard Lovelady up to the majors for Players Weekend, and then let's get just a 1-day contract for Rich Hill, just so I can have a big mountain and Richard Lovelady Players Weekend. That's all I want. It's all I want in the world. Actually, no, I'm very excited if there's a Lieutenant Dansby Players Weekend jersey. Oh my God!
Woo, boy.
Yeah, I'm going to spend some coin on that, unless it's those like paper things. But this has been another episode of Bricks Behind the Ivy. Like, subscribe, follow, review to help support us and grow our audience. Thank you so much. We'll see you next week.
Well, that's going to do it from here, from Bricks Behind the Ivy. This is Harry Carey. We know you've enjoyed the broadcast and the outcome. Be sure to share, like, and subscribe to this wonderful broadcast that they've done and the podcast going forward. Be sure to also check us out on YouTube and Instagram and, hell, whatever else is out there on the airwaves. And we want to thank Jeff and Sean for putting this all together and keeping us all Cup fans entertained with their knowledge. You know, I also love to always say that Jeff's last name spelled backward is Sikkesjugar. And Sean's is Nipak. Boy, oh boy, it never gets old. Well, that's going to do it from here. So from all of us here at Bricks Behind the Ivy, this is Harry Carey saying, go Cub, holy cow, and so long, everybody.